Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read you a couple of additional instructions. The duties of the attorneys in the court have been performed. The case has been argued by the lawyers, and I have instructed you regarding the rules of law which should and must govern you in your deliberations. The time has now come when the great burden of reaching a just, fair, and conscientious decision in this case is to be thrown upon you, the jury, the jurors selected for this duty. You are not to be swayed by sympathy, prejudice, or passion. You will be very careful and deliberate. Please be careful and deliberate in weighing the evidence. I charge you to keep your duties steadfastly in mind and as upright citizens to render a just and true verdict. You will have the jury instructions when you go back immediately. You will also have verdict forms submitted to you. There will be eventually 5 verdict forms. The first one will read, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Theodore Edgecomb, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide." If that's your decision, you then answer the second question, "Did the defendant commit the crime of first-degree intentional homicide while using a dangerous weapon? Yes or no?" The second potential verdict form that will be submitted is, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Theodore Edgecomb, guilty of second-degree intentional homicide in violation of the Wisconsin Criminal Code." Again, there will be the second question, if you find him guilty on that charge. Did the defendant commit the crime of second-degree intentional homicide while using a dangerous weapon? Again, yes or no. The third verdict form, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Theodore Edgecomb, guilty of first-degree reckless homicide in violation of the Criminal Code of Wisconsin." Again, if that's your verdict, you'll have to answer the second question, "Did the defendant commit the crime of first-degree reckless homicide while using a dangerous weapon? Yes or no?" The next verdict form will be, "We, the jury," or reads, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Theodore Edgecomb, guilty of second-degree reckless homicide in violation of the Wisconsin Criminal Code." Again, if that's your verdict, you answer the next question, "Did the defendant commit the crime of second-degree intentional homicide while using a dangerous weapon? Yes or no?" And then finally, the last verdict form would read, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Theodore Edgecomb, guilty of homicide by negligent handling of a firearm in violation of the Wisconsin Criminal Code." And the last verdict that's submitted, the sixth potential verdict, so you'll have six forms, reads, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Theodore Edgecomb, not guilty." It is for you, the jury, to determine whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty of each of the charged or any of the charged offenses. You must make a finding as to each count or the count of the information. Each of these counts that I just mentioned is a separate crime, and you must consider each one separately. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, this is a criminal, not a civil case. That means before you, the jury, can return a verdict which I can legally receive, the verdict must be reached unanimously. In a criminal case, all 12 of you must agree in order to arrive at and reach a verdict. When you retire to the jury room, I would ask that one of the first things you do is select one of your members to preside over your deliberations as the foreperson. That person's vote as the foreperson, however, is entitled to no greater weight than the vote of any other juror. If during deliberations you need to communicate with the court, that means communicate with me, you need to send out a note through the bailiff that's signed by the foreperson. To keep a complete record of this trial, it's important that you communicate with me as the court only by writing or only with a written note. If you have a question, I, as the court, will discuss the matter with the attorneys before I answer it, so it may take some time. You should and must continue your deliberations while you wait for an answer. If there's a question, I will answer the questions or any question in writing, or I might bring you here to answer it here in open court. Most likely I'll answer it in writing. After you've agreed upon and reached your verdict, you should have it signed and dated by the foreperson that you've selected to preside over your deliberations. Madam Clerk, if you can swear in the bailiffs, please.
You solemnly swear that you will keep all jurors sworn at this trial together in some private place, and that you will not, before they render their verdict, communicate the state of their deliberations or the verdict they have agreed upon, so help you God.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you can follow my bailiffs out, you'll have the jury instructions immediately. You'll have the verdict forms in just a minute or two. All right, the jury's been excused to deliberate. I'll make a record. Earlier today, well, let me step back. A few days ago, there was a juror that was excused because she had a family emergency. I think there was a death in the family. Both sides stipulated to her being an alternate. That was, I think, last Friday. Is that correct, gentlemen?
Yes, Judge.
And today, the juror that was not feeling well, that was lightheaded, the lawyers, both sides, also stipulated to her being an alternate today, correct?
Yes, correct.
I think I should also make a record, and both sides can chime in. The jury that was seated in this case is one of, if not the most diverse that I've ever seated in Milwaukee County. The jury that's deliberating has 6 people that are white or Caucasian and 6 people that are minorities or people of color, including at least 4, possibly 5 African Americans. It's a very, very diverse jury. It's obvious to the lawyers, but both sides agree with that for the record. Is that a yes, Mr. Hibner?
Yes.
The defense agrees with that statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, we're in recess. Give my clerk, please, a phone number that you can be reached. As is my normal practice, I don't send back exhibits unless they're requested. I have sent back or will send back the jury instructions and the verdict forms. If they ask for an exhibit or anything along those lines, I'll advise the lawyers. We'll come back. We'll discuss any exhibits that are requested. It's about 1:45. We're in recess. Off the record. Thank you.